No judgment, no foul, no nothing. Just take care of yourself, balance your autonomic nervous system so you can be liberated to be you. Because you can't change the external world. You can change how you interpret stress. That's good living.
What's up, everyone? Before we talk about today's show, I'm just going to go ahead and say this might be the best one we've done yet. We have Jim Poole, the CEO of NuCalm, on the show. Andrei, had you heard of NuCalm prior to me saying we got to interview this guy?
I had only heard of it in passing from you, but I can now confirm that I am going to be purchasing the product.
Well, here's the thing, is that what I've come to know is that stress is probably the biggest deterrent in my personal life, and moreover, the performance of me as an entrepreneur, and just the overall, enjoyment of company building, of leading people, of growing things, of starting things. This is the biggest attractor. And so a couple of years ago, I heard about this technology, started using it, became obsessed with it, started becoming obsessed with learning about stress, the autonomic nervous system, how it works in our bodies. And it, to me, is just perhaps the biggest epidemic facing society today, yet we don't have a good solution in terms of how to address it. And there's also just not as much of a conversation around it as I think there needs to be, in line with the performance conversation. And so I wanted to bring Jim on the show to talk about stress management, how leaders should think about it, how entrepreneurs should think about it. Because honestly, I think the concept of like longevity, where hey, you might be able to do a company and sell it, but like, do you want to die at 50 or 100? Do you want to be able to do 5 companies, or you want to be able to do 2? I think it's a very, very important conversation, and one that frankly not a lot of people are having. So I'm stoked. Andrei, what was your big takeaway from this?
Yeah, I think my big takeaway, and this really lines up with a lot of the things I've been reading recently, is it's all about hitting presence and peak state and being at peace with your reality at any given moment. And so much of that is stress management. And so if you can do that, it doesn't even matter how long you live or what you're doing. You're just happy and satisfied the entire time. And so this is how you do that. That's what this episode is about.
Yeah. On that point, think back into like our episode with Goddard. That's actually where the creative genius comes alive, is when you're fully engaged, fully present. And so anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. It was epic. Without further ado, let's welcome Jim Poole onto the show. Jim, what's going on, man?
How's it going, buddy?
It's going phenomenal. And man, I have just so many things I've been wanting to ask you. Maybe just to kick things off, one of the questions that we like to ask people is, did you ever think that you would be working at the intersection of stress, of the nervous system, of science, of technology earlier in your career?
That's a great question. To be honest, no. You kind of just follow this weird circuitous route of opportunity. But I was raised by 2 psychotherapists. So I was raised in the world of compassion, listening, observation, and people that are really plagued mentally. I was a psychotherapist in the state mental health institutions in Massachusetts for 5 years in the late 80s and 90s, and then went to business school. So maybe it was built into my DNA, but to come across this technology in 2009, having never really heard conceptually about this, and really never thinking about stress, right? Stress was just something you push through. And if you acquiesce to it, you were weak in your mind. But no, I never thought I'd have this opportunity to live a life of purpose and intention and just feel blessed every day to be a part of what I do.
And so just to kind of paint the background here, so I'd love to hear your latest elevator pitch on NuCalm. What is NuCalm for the listeners that have never used it before?
NuCalm is the world's first and only patented technology clinically proven to lower stress and improve sleep quality without drugs. That's a really profound statement. Obviously, when you awarded a patent, you proved objectively with irrefutable evidence to an attorney with the United States PTO that what you've created has never existed prior on Earth. That's pretty wild to me. How come there's 7.6 billion people, many of which are really, really bright? We haven't spent any time trying to figure out stress. Yet we know on the medical side, stress creates 98% of all disease. The whole thing is a mind bender to me. So the technology is designed and was invented by a neuroscientist, quantum physicist, naturopath, Dr. G. Blake Holloway in Texas, to serve the highest profile of anxiety on earth. It's called post-traumatic stress disorder, comorbid with addiction. This was designed to help that profile. And in 2009, I took over as chairman of the board, president, and CEO of this enterprise, simply because Dr. Holloway in June of that year said to me, Jim, I've invented a technology that quickly, predictably, and safely relaxes the mind and body within minutes with no side effects. And I thought to myself, what are you talking about? I've never heard that sentence before. And I immediately thought of marijuana. But marijuana makes you want to eat Doritos, your eyes get glossy, you lose sense of time. I was like, there's side effects to marijuana. So that's how it kind of all started. But this technology, and we'll get into it, has gone down a path of invention and product development for 11 and a half years. And it used to be really exclusive to the wealthy, to the military, and to the doctor community. So we're here to literally create a tool that's a facilitator to help you manage what's called being human. And that's the reptilian side of your brain, which governs fear, stress, anxiety, depression, and worry.
I agree. I mean, just anecdotally, why I wanted to have you on the show is, a lot of people that we talk to, they're all about performance. Like, how do we get the best outcomes? How do we be the best leaders? How do we build the best companies? All this stuff. And by the way, which a requisite of that is having a healthy body, and not being sick, not being bedridden. And it's funny, the conversation of stress and the impact on that ability, it's kind of one of these things where people will acknowledge it, but they're not really, there's not that direct correlation. It's kind of like people will think effort, outcome. Nobody's saying stress, results poor. And why do you think this is a topic that is not more addressed head on, especially in the corporate world?
One of the things that's fascinating, humans are amazing. I mean, I've been running a company in neuroscience and brain physiology, stress management, autonomic nervous system balance across the spectrum of humanity, from children plagued with autism to people dying of stage 4 cancer. We all are afflicted with the same challenges, yet, and the brain is so complicated. It's so fascinating to get inside the brain and be like, holy shit, look how complicated and sophisticated the brain and the neural networks and how amazing we are. But there are a few blind spots to humanity, which are fascinating to me. Number one, we seem to be unable to understand, process, and figure out what is intangible. If I can't see it, smell it, touch it, hear it, I can't understand it. That's stress. It's all there. We know when we're stressed out, we're impatient, we're agitated, we're judgmental, we're not a great human being, we're not a good lover, we're not a good dad, we're not a good son, we're not a good employee, we're not a good human. We have behavioral modification and we do things that we regret, and we know stress, but we never pay attention to it because it's not tangible, right? And I think, several years ago, certainly my background prior to running this company was in private equity Wall Street banking. My modus operandi was work really hard and drink. That's how I resolved my stress, right?
Let me guess, you hung out with a lot of New Yorkers?
Sure. Yes, I did. So, it's fascinating to me that humans, as bright as we are, I mean, what separates us from primates and allows us to do what we do is our prefrontal cortex. It's an amazing element of the body and the brain. We are really weak when it comes to understanding intangible. We also are really weak when it comes to understanding time horizon. If you knew that the sun's going to give you melanoma, which is a nasty cancer, you're not going to go lie in the sun. If you knew that smoking cigarettes is going to give you lung cancer, which is a nasty way to die, you're not going to smoke cigarettes. But what you do today doesn't have an immediate consequence, right? So our inability to understand time horizon. So those are the two blind spots that have always kind of perplexed me in the human condition. The inability to understand the intangible and the inability to understand time horizon.
It's fascinating because, we're always talking to a lot of executives and it's like, you manage what you measure, right? And, and I even go as far as saying like currency is an example of that. Like it's this made up thing that, printed paper is dollars. But now it'll provide a system of measurement for exchange. And so why aren't we able to have a unit of, is there anybody that's working on a unit of measurement for stress? Because it seems like if that was an accessible thing, like maybe it would be more tangible and then we could start to have these type of conversations more meaningfully.
Well, historically, you use something called galvanic skin response, which measured the electroporation on your skin when your sympathetic nervous system was activated. It's also the technology in the lie detector. In the last decade, medically, there's been an advancement in heart rate variability, which measures the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system has two areas, the sympathetic nervous system, which is the stress response, the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest. Medical grade HRV can give you a really good snapshot of your current stress management, okay? It can also showcase the complexity of the organism and showcase the variability you have interstitially in your heartbeat, which showcases your longevity. These are important elements for the future. Today, there's a proliferation of consumer devices that are diagnostic and they show biophysical measures, but they are not accurate, sensitive, and valid. So, like I wear the Oura Ring, great. It tells me my sleep score, but on the HRV, it's not capturing enough data to give me an accurate readout of my HRV. So today we're still kind of plagued with the divide between consumer convenience and accessibility and medical grade HRV, but heart rate variability. In fact, Dr. Chung Kang Pang at Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital and Harvard Medical School is the world's preeminent expert in HRV. That's a tool that can measure your stress. But even before we go there, Scott, I'd like to share with your listeners a simple, basic understanding of what it means to be a human, because we're not given this education. When I find, I lecture all over the world about applied neuropsychobiology and complex science, but I have to start with what the hell it means to be a human. Let me showcase two things to what it means to be a human. You have a central nervous system and an autonomic nervous system. The central nervous system has one primary function: self-preservation and survival. So your central nervous system is constantly monitoring you for familiarity, security, and safety all the time. So it doesn't matter where you are. You feel this in your intuition when you're walking on a dark street and you don't know where you are. You can feel it in your gut, right? So your central nervous system is constantly monitoring you for safety, security, but it also has a better memory than you ever have. Every time you go into your memory bank and take out a memory that was consolidated, you manipulate the memory to your ego and then you put it back in the library. And then, so there's a lot of historical revisionism in our ability to remember, but your central nervous system remembers every time you failed, were publicly shamed, humiliated, feel guilty. So the central nervous system, self-preservation. The autonomic nervous system is the reptilian brain, okay? This is the midbrain comprised of the amygdala and the HPA axis. The reptilian brain is 40 million years evolved. Think about how complex that must be. Think about how much you've learned and changed and grown in the last 14 months with COVID. Think about how much you've learned. Well, think about the brain and the neural networking with 40 million years of evolution. That's the reptilian brain. But the prefrontal and frontal cortex, which separates us from primates and is our executive functioning, our character, our personality, our left brain logic, that's 4 million years evolved. So we as a human are battling a 36 million year head start. That's a challenge. So what happens is your central nervous system knows everything about you, knows your whole history. And if it thinks, hey, I'm going into a meeting, and last time you were in the meeting, you said things and you looked foolish and you felt shamed and you lost sleep and you felt insecure about yourself, it remembers this and it activates the human stress response. The human stress response is the amygdala and the HPA axis, takes all of your resources and builds this fight or flight mechanism. And what it's doing is it's changing your behavior because now you are in this fight or flight survival mechanism and your prefrontal cortex has no oxygen-rich red blood cells to think. So when we're stressed and we do things that we regret, it's not because we made conscious choices. It's because we are victim to the evolution of man and we fall victim to the survival instinct of man. So when we go to a place of employment and we're under a lot of stress. Today's the end of the first quarter. Sales numbers coming in. People are not.
Today is literally the end of our first quarter, by the way.
It's the end of the first quarter. So people are not themselves. Why? Because they are amped up in this state of fight or flight and stress. They don't have the resources to their frontal cortex to use their executive functioning. That's a really good example of a cycle of work. So when people say, what you measure, you succeed on, and what your goals are, that's great. But if you are constantly plagued with fear, stress, anxiety, depression, and worry, you are never going to be liberated to activate the best parts of your personality, character, and cognition. That's what it means to be a human. And until we understand this, what's the point? You're just going to make these habitual bad choices because stress is going to take over, and it's all about resource allocation. You're a bright guy. You're an executive in a company that's growing. Guess what? It's all about resource allocation. So in your business, where you apply your time, effort, and money, things grow. Well, in the brain and in the body, which is a closed loop ecosystem, you're fighting over oxygen-rich red blood. And when the reptilian brain is activated, there's no resource allocation to your character, personality, and who you are as a human being. So we should limit our judgment of people for making poor choices when they're under high stress, because it's not them. This is not a conscious choice. People don't understand this. This is the simple aspect of being a human. And it's shameful that we walk around this earth with 7.6 billion people and we don't even know what it means and what the playing field is of being a human.
So, Jim, you're talking about something super interesting. And the first thing that comes to mind when I hear this is, Scott has touched on this. We talk to a bunch of very high performance people all the time. And a common thread is a lot of them for a large period of that time of their, working career have been driven by, a lot of the reptilian responses that you're talking about, right? That anxiety, that fear, that pressure to perform. And so, my question is, when you bring in time horizon, is operating out of a stress-driven mindset something that compounds over time and has lasting effects if you keep it going for too long?
Great question. When you see in the literature of medicine that 98% of all diseases are created by stress, it's not from one stressful day. It's not from one bad night's sleep. Stress creates disease because of a systematic long-term consequence to chronic stress. So yes, both of you gentlemen can get up today, even if you had a bad night's sleep, and perform at your best today because you're accessing all the resources your body has and you're resilient. Over the course of time, how stress creates disease is simple. Your body has trillions of cells. The only time that your cells clean their toxins, do their cellular maintenance, and restore their mitochondria is in the theta brainwave function, which is commensurate with the second stage of sleep. So we need sleep. We need sleep for growth, for regeneration, but we need it for the cellular restoration so our cells understand what their function is, because cell biology is cells communicating their function to another cell. That's how we operate as a human. Okay, over the course of time, we live in a high stress, poor sleep, high stress, poor sleep, high stress, poor sleep cycle. We have some epigenetics, we have some cool genealogy, we have some cool nutrition, but over the course of time, at some point, you lose that resilience because your cells have not done their cellular maintenance, cleaned their toxins, and restored their mitochondria. They start to break down and they lose their function. So yes, there is a long-term consequence to chronic stress. And what it does, Andrei, is this. The proliferation of immunosuppressive diseases. Do you really think 50 years ago that we had ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, and all these immunosuppressive diseases of the gut? We didn't. Why not? Because number one, our food supply was food and was naturally balanced. And number two, we weren't living in this high cortisol, high stress environment. Cortisol messes with the microbiome and the acidity of your gut. It creates disease states in your gut. So when you live like a high performing executive and you wear this badge of honor, like, hey, I slept 2 hours and 40 minutes for the last 7 days. I say, that's great. You're accelerating your way to a life of misery and death when you hit your 50s. That's what's going to happen. That's your prize. So I don't see that as possible, right? So over the course of time, if you don't resolve this and you don't manage your stress will manage you into disease. We see this all the time. We do a lot of work with stage 4 cancer. Where does that come from? Unresolved conflict and high stress. So we have to come to a place of enlightenment as humans to understand Even if we can't see, touch, and feel stress, we have to know there's a cumulative negative consequence to not managing it.
So here we are, right? Any executive listening is probably like, okay, I get it. Stress is bad. It's going to do bad shit to me. What are my options? You know what I mean? Like I heard you talk about kind of cellular replenishment, and I can already hear all the biohacker executives that I know exist. Like, well, I do the intermittent fasting. And then there's the people like, yeah, I tried meditation. It's not for me. Or I did it and, I do it a couple times a week. Like, where do you go from here once you have the self-awareness?
You go to a path of mindfulness, okay? But again, mindfulness is intangible. What the hell does that mean? All right, you've got a few choices, and it's all resolved around the anatomy of oxygenating the body, okay? So you have meditation, which I personally have struggled with. I did martial arts for 20 years. I've got 2 black belts, and I grew up as a wrestler. I can't meditate. When I close my eyes to meditate, I almost have a panic attack because all my problems come right to my forehead, and I'm like, I start spinning. And I feel ashamed of myself because I can't do what seems to be a simple exercise. But I cannot slow down my monkey mind. It's not going to work. I can't do it. So furthermore, after years of failure, I've come to the realization that's not going to work for me. Yoga, Tai Chi, deep breathing. These are all areas of humanity where you're pushing towards mindfulness, okay? Not with the expressed intent of creating higher consciousness. People don't understand mindfulness. People don't understand stress. People don't understand the amygdala and the autonomic nervous system. The outcome desirous of mindfulness practices is not this higher consciousness. That's the outcome that's derived from the physiology. What the hell are you doing when you're doing deep breathing? What you're doing is you're oxygenating the entire enterprise of your body and mind, and you're putting oxygen-rich red blood cells through the hippocampus, prefrontal, and frontal cortex, where you think clearly. So when you are into a mindfulness practice, and it takes time, effort, perseverance, determination, commitment, none of which I'm ever going to give time to. I'm a 52-year-old leader of a global neuroscience company. We serve 7 industries across 6 continents. I've got 107 stockholders, privately held Delaware corporation, 4 board members, 52 medical advisors, the United States FBI, hostage rescue team, DOD, Special Operations Command, 49 professional sports teams, thousands of people using our product, 3 girls at home, 19, 17, and 14. I don't have time, man. You're not going to see me sitting in a hotel room meditating. I won't do it. So the outcome for me was NuCalm, an external technology designed expressly to manage trauma and comorbid with addiction, but really with the express intent of doing one thing and one thing really well, putting the brakes on the sympathetic nervous system and raising the rest and digest aspect of the autonomic nervous system. This is a gift for humanity from Dr. Holloway, literally a gift, because I am never going to do yoga. I'm 6 feet, 225 pounds. I got a big upper body and chicken legs. You ain't seeing me in a yoga studio. Not going to happen. I've done the deep breathing with Wim Hof. I love it. I hyperventilate. I feel good. But I'm not going to do it. So I'm not that type of person. I need something simple, effective that puts me in this place. So NuCalm to me and to many, many people in the world is a gift because it's an external technology that derives the same benefit of being a monk. That's what you can do.
Yeah. So I think like anything, there are many ways to get to the same outcome, which is oxygenation of the brain is kind of what you're saying. And yeah, I think for a lot of people, it's, trying the different modalities, figuring out what works for them. And frankly, so I am a 9-year daily meditator. I love it. I've had lots of crazy experiences and blissed out states. And, it's very similar to what I'm able to get myself into that at this point, very similarly that I would be with NuCalm, where it's all within a minute or less, I'm able to drop into theta. And it's amazing, but I've been doing this for 9 freaking years and I have a Herculean discipline around it. And that's just not most people. And so what I was so excited about your technology was like, who the hell can't put on a pair of headphones, press play on their phone, put a sticker on their wrist, and sit there for 20 minutes? Like that seems like anybody could do that. And if you get the same outcome, then that's pretty amazing. And I think a lot of the role of technology, you talk about democratizing services that only rich people can have to the rest of the world. Like that is fundamentally what technology enables. And I think you guys are doing it in a very unique, cool way.
That's why we're here. I mean, we've had a mission to change the planet for 20 years. We're in our 20th year as a company. Your mission to change the planet, what does that mean? It seems really noble and grandiose. Well, how the hell are you going to do that? Simply by addition by subtraction. When you liberate humanity from stress, you create a better world. So you create positive energy by getting rid of negative energy, right? So this technology is really simple to use. And that's a really important aspect of what we're doing. It used to not be affordable, right? It used to be $5,000.
I know. I paid $5,000 for it.
That's right. Thank you very much. And if you'd like,
I had the cream on my ear and everything, man.
That's it, man. So we sold $22 million of that product from 2010 to October of last year. Let me briefly talk about the science behind what we're doing. The brain and the body communicate in only two ways, chemical messaging and electrical messaging. If the desired outcome is to create parasympathetic nervous system dominance and take the stress response and let it go to rest for a while, how are we going to do that? We're going to do it by managing your brainwave. That is a big ask. What do you mean you're going to come manage my brainwave? Well, people don't understand it because they don't even understand, physics and vibration and frequency and energy. But your brainwave is oscillating at a certain frequency all the time. And there's 4 specific brainwaves that we see in a 24-hour biorhythm. You have beta brainwave function, which is 13 hertz all the way up to 38 hertz. When you are really focused and there's no distraction, your brainwave function is at 15 to 20 hertz. It's oscillating at that frequency. When you're really stressed out, it's 20, 25, and you're really stressed out, fight or flight, and you're freaking out, you're at 30, 35 hertz. So your body's freaking out because your brainwave is oscillating really fast. Okay, great. Let's go down. Let's slow it down. When you are meditating, Scott, you're cycling into alpha first. Alpha is slower than beta, and it's 12 hertz to 8 hertz. In alpha, it's commensurate with relaxation, creativity, being in the zone, and transcendental meditation. That's what it feels like. Theta is a sweet spot. Theta is commensurate to the healing zone of humanity, where your cells are restoring, you're recovering, you're rejuvenating, you're getting healthy. Theta is just above delta. Delta is the deep, dreamless sleep where your body's restoring. Those are the 4 brainwave functions of a human being in a 24-hour period. And as I mentioned before, the second stage of sleep, theta, Theta, is the only time your cells clean their toxins. Okay, so the goal of NuCalm is the opposite of caffeine. You drink coffee, it's Wednesday morning, it's the last day of the quarter, and you wake up and you're feeling a little lethargic mentally. You have some coffee, all of a sudden, hey, I'm firing, I can do this, let's go crush it. Okay, what happened? All caffeine did was increase the frequency of your brainwave. So what we're going to do in daylight during the day is we are going to come in and manage your brainwave function down into alpha and theta just above sleep. It's like David Copperfield levitating a body, except we're levitating your brainwave function in what's called the healing zone. So according to our research at NASA and Harvard Medical School with Chung-Kang Peng, the world's preeminent HRV expert, 20 minutes of NuCalm is equivalent to 2 hours of restorative sleep. This is not a sleep replacement. It's not a sleep aid. But when you are literally in that brainwave function of theta for that long, you're getting this amazing healing and restoration. So NuCalm is designed to slow your brainwave function down. But to do this, talk about Herculean effort, we're going to manage the most sophisticated organ in the history of this planet. How are you going to do that, bro? Okay. Well, the brain communicates 2 ways, chemical messaging and electrical messaging. The chemical messaging is that disc. This disc looks simple. There's nothing simple about it. 5 years of invention. It has a frequency. It has a signature of frequencies that are imprinted in a Tesla coil on a 6-layer multi-wave oscillator. It's basically a little semiconductor. Echoes on your wrist. What that's doing is it's using harmonic oscillations and frequency modulation to activate your body's natural inhibitory neurotransmitter. This is complicated shit, right? And I'm giving you guys the 6th grade version. Forget the high highfalutin erudite.
Let's keep it in elementary school.
This disc is slowing down your adrenals so you can't resist what we really want to do. That's what the disc is doing. So you put this disc on your inner left wrist, and it's like having a glass of wine or two with no cognitive impairment. That's what it's doing. That's the chemical messaging of NuCalm. Then you have an eye mask because we're visually stimulated by light. You can't meditate, relax, or sleep with your eyes open. Easy. Then comes the cool stuff. There's over $6 million of patented mathematics, physics, and algorithms in a software platform that's then wrapped inside music. You hear, as a human, music. You cannot hear what we're doing. But to give you an example of the complexity, a typical song that you download from Apple iTunes might be 5 megabytes. NuCalm Rescue 70, which I did yesterday when I arrived here, is 1.5 gigabytes. This is not a song. This is the most complex, sophisticated mathematical algorithm pattern software designed expressly to trick and manage your brainwave function into alpha and theta. That's what we're doing. So you've got the chemical messaging in the disc, the electrical messaging through software that's presented to the midbrain through your ears. So all you do as a human being is you lie down, find a comfortable place. Hopefully you're warm and you're lying down in your bed. You put a disc on your wrist, eye mask on, you pick a track. Within 10 minutes, you're in theta. And the longer you're in there, the more you heal. So when you get up from NuCalm, Scott, you feel amazing. Why? Because you've had the gift of 2 to 4 to 6 hours of restorative sleep in the process of a 20, 30, 40, 50-minute NuCalm session. So this is so easy, so complex, and so now available because for 4.5 years, while you were spending $5,000 on this system, we were working behind the scenes to take a Class 3 FDA-regulated medical device and bring it over the counter to consumers for a subscription model. So today, we can do podcasts where you're not going to feel ashamed saying, hey, this is a great product, it's $5,000. Now you can get access to NuCalm on a monthly subscription for $39.99 a month with no obligation. Boom, bingo, accelerating our mission of changing the world.
That's awesome, Jim, and congrats on making that switch. Because it's great to create and commercialize a technology like this, but it's even better to put it into as many people's hands as possible. And so that's awesome. I guess 2 questions come to mind. One, when you're talking about this idea that 20 minutes on NuCalm gives you 2 hours of restorative sleep, I'm sure that that really put a ton of different questions in my mind. First of all, is there an overstimulation? Is there an over NuCalming it? Can you do, 60 minutes and then kind of do and get the same effect as an oversleep? When you sleep a ton and you're still tired. And then 2, and this is probably the part that I'm even more interested in, and it ties into this, lower barrier where you're moving to the subscription, right? These technologies are amazing, but similar to meditation, similar to breath work, similar to all of these things, it's just really hard. It's been hard historically to get these missions into the minds of people that aren't thinking about it, right? And so I'm very curious about your go-to-market, about the way that you're messaging this platform, because you're talking to us right now, and don't get me wrong, you've dumbed it down, and it is, but it's already very intricate. So I'm fascinated by how you're communicating this to your average 16-year-old, let's say, who, by the way, because of their screen time, they're probably the most stressed people in the world.
First and foremost, great questions. You cannot over NuCalm. Just like you can't overeat till your stomach explodes. Your brain knows what it needs when it needs it. If you listen to it, if you put the brakes on the stress response and you become more observant, more present in the moment without judgment, and more patient, guess what? The world's here. It's always been here. But you've had so much stress in your brain, you're going to the next thing all the time. You're not present in your own life. So I would love to, knowing all the physics and the math and all the science, I would love to be in NuCalm 2 hours a day. Why? Because I'll live to about 185 years old if I do that, right? But your brain will not accept that. You can only NuCalm to the point where you've had enough restoration, because then you become bored and you almost become agitated in the process. So you're like, I've had enough. I'm done. There's a cumulative aspect to NuCalm, which is similar to mindfulness and meditation. The more you use NuCalm, the more we balance your autonomic nervous system, which means the more we balance your ability to manage stress. We're giving you, through this technology, control back where you're not hijacked by this reptilian side of your brain. You're present, aware, you're able to be responsive to stress instead of react. So there is no overdoing it. It'd be amazing if you could, but you can't. Okay. The go-to-market strategy. We launched, so it took us 4.5 years to move from a highly regulated, sophisticated medical device that Scott purchased. It was 4 components, a little more clumsy, and now it's 3 components, a lot easier to use. Okay, great. We're now live in the market. We launched on October 14th, 2020. For you CEOs out there, it took a lot of courage to do what we did, because in September, we sold $650,000 of a $4,695 medical device. In October, our price went down to $39.99, which is a 99.15% discount in COVID. Hello, but guess what? We're here to change the world. So we ain't stopping. We said, hey, this is tough. We're going to dive in and do it. So the messaging platform for us has never really been about stress. You know, we've been working in the medical community and with the military and professional athletes and high performers and pilots and executives for years. What we find is most humans, especially high performers, would view not managing their stress as kind of a judgment, like a weakness. So we know that stress impacts your sleep, but here's what we also know. Nobody that I've met who's 15 and over is sleeping well. Not a single human being. There's not one human being, from monks to 20-year-olds, that are sleeping well, simply because of the life we live today, okay? Food supply is not food. Our technologies constantly has us tethered to this, cortisol world. So we're all about the sleep piece. In 2018, we won Best of the CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, the largest trade show in the world. There's 4,200 plus vendors there and 186,000 guests. How would a small company win that award? Simple. We had 24 NuCalm stations, and we had a huge billboard. Get 2 hours of restorative sleep in 20 minutes. So when the doors opened, we had a queue for an hour for the entirety of the 3 days. 1,847 people. What did we learn from that? Wow, that statement right there resonates with all of humanity. It doesn't feel judgmental. It's something people want. So 2 hours of restorative sleep in 20 minutes is the messaging platform we're going to go to market with. In 2015, I was introduced to Tony Robbins, and he and I became friends. And he started sharing with his tribe and his followers NuCalm. Great. That was kind of a shift. By 2016, we noticed that 88% of our new customer acquisition were consumers buying a $5,000 device online. We're like, I think we're onto something. People are looking for a solution that's patented and clinically proven, safe and efficacious to take care of stress and sleep. Then things started to evolve. That was kind of the precipitous moment for us to move our R&D and spend a lot of time and resources to get to the subscription. In 2019, I do a 70-minute interview with Ben Greenfield. I don't know who he is. It's a great interview. And in June of 2019, we sell almost $2 million of NuCalm from a podcast. So here I am, a 52-year-old man thinking, wow, this social media thing is really cool. I like this. So we tried again. We launched the mastermind, which was an opportunity for you to join the company and be a part of this whole market research portfolio. It gave you access to the $5,000 device for $2,000. So we did another podcast then, April of 2020, thinking, well, we can't be as successful. The price is in half. We sold $2 million in 4 weeks. So I was like, okay. So here's what's happened, gentlemen. We have the world's only patented technology clinically proven to lower stress and improve sleep without drugs. We're approved by the military, NSF certified for sport, FDA, 19 years of really advanced neuroscience. We have it. I don't believe that people like us in our demographic, 25 to 45-year-old dudes, is our target market. I believe it's head of households, females 40 to 65 that are taking the decisions to take care of their sons and daughters and their moms and dads. But we're dude-centric because we have Luke Story and Jim Quick and Tony Robbins and Ben Greenfield. So when you look at our CRM today, 90% of our customers are dudes. So it's like, okay, we got to change the messaging here. This is less about performance and it's more about health, longevity, immune strength, sleep, and love and taking care of people. So our messaging, I believe, will focus on the sleep aspect. And our path to market so far has been all in social media, which is really easy to measure. You do your tagline, you do your A/B testing, you do Facebook, retargeting, Instagram. That's what we're working on. This year, late, I think in the fourth quarter, we'll go to TV because what do insomniacs do at 2 to 4 in the morning? Watch TV. What do we have? The world's only technology to help them. So that's the go-to-market strategy.
That's interesting. So I have more questions on this because I've been wondering about this because I go on your LinkedIn. I'm like, what the hell is up with this company? Like, the product's amazing. And I see you guys have like, and nobody knows about it. And I'm like, and you guys have like 10 employees on LinkedIn, and you're telling me you did 26 million in sales of that other product. And now you do a podcast, it turns into $2 million. Like, what is the composition of your company today? Like your margins sound ridiculous.
Our margins are very tasty. And you know what? Think about it. It's cost us millions of dollars in 19 years to get here. So our focus for 19 years has been inverted to the company. Every nickel we've ever created, we put into research and development to create an easier, more efficacious solution time and time again. And you've seen this just as a customer in the last 2 years. You've seen this significant evolution really quickly, right? Well, we have a whole portfolio of products we haven't even launched yet. So it wasn't until we got to the direct-to-consumer subscription model that we felt liberated to go market. We are now just starting. So historically, Scott, it's all been word of mouth. We never spent a single penny on marketing, not one. So now we get to actually go play. We get to actually go do awareness and education because that's all we need to do. So 19 years to get to the starting line, and now we're here. So that's why you haven't seen or heard about us. Historically, there was like 6 of us. We're like Oompa Loompas on steroids because we do NuCalm every day. So we're a very high-performing, multi-functioning group of executives. And we've got a great medical advisory board. In 2020, when we changed everything, we brought in a team. We have 22 full-time employees and over 70 contract 1099 folks. So we're growing rapidly to build the infrastructure out, make sure our e-commerce engine can support 10, 20,000 transactions an hour, that type of big scalability. But furthermore, we had some significant challenges on the tech. You have an app, you can listen to the track. We never want you to be able to take the songs, put it on your computer and steal our stuff. That's millions of dollars of intellectual property and the only type of kind. So we had to do some very sophisticated back-end authentication and protection of the IP. That cost us a lot of money as well. So we are literally built to scale and ready to take over the world and use the gravitas we've created. Our portfolio, my little phone here has got 4,000 contacts. I got 1,000 of the world's top athletes in my phone. These people we've never asked anything of. And we didn't feel comfortable saying, hey, go tell your friends about a $5,000 medical device we sell. But now we get to say, hey, this is what we do, how we do it. And people are thrilled that the price point is so low. So it's all starting. It's really exciting. We've worked really hard to get here, and we're proud to be where we're at. And I'm thrilled just to be in a position where all we have to do is educate. To me, there's no idea of selling another human being. What does that mean? Imposing my will on their frontal cortex? I don't think so. But they don't know we exist, and they don't know what is out there for them. This is an easy-to-use, efficacious tool that's going to help you be a better performer in your life. It doesn't matter what you're doing. And then now it's a monthly subscription. That's what we're here to do.
Mic drop. Boom.
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 Bring it on, boys.
That's awesome, man. Well, I think like just to kind of land the plane here a little bit, the thing that I want people to take away here is you said it, like language is such a powerful thing and framing is such a powerful thing. And I think like, for all the executives and all the people that are listening, we live in this twisted ass culture of like how hard we work and how little sleep we get and how much coffee we drink. And, I'm on XYZ, the nootropic and all this shit. And it's such short-term thinking. And I love the way you're like, yeah, congratulations. You're celebrating your acceleration to demise. And I just think like to quote Tony Robbins, there's achieving to be happy, which is one of my big takeaways. And there's happily achieving and doing so in a way that's conducive to longevity. And I just think that, you guys and I think first, like the recognition amongst executives about the impact that stress can have on your business negatively is imperative. And then, do you want to do one business or do you want to do 10? And that it's just I'm I'm 6 years in on my business. And honestly, I talked to a lot of founders and they're like, I could do another one tomorrow. And it's because I prioritize and value this stuff. And a lot of people, they're like, I need to go heal and lick my wounds for a year before I can even do anything. And I'm like, well, boy, you freaking did it wrong. And so I don't know. I think I can just be a personal advocate, and I have so much work to do in terms of presence and mindfulness and having an open heart and being loving compassion in as many moments as possible, which this facilitates at a physiological level. But you have to place importance on this stuff as a priority first and foremost, and then you can worry about the tactics. And I think you guys are a very effective tactic.
It's really simple. You don't manage stress, it's going to manage you. And it's called disease. And if you don't manage stress and you're epigenetically predisposed, you're going to have several diseases. There's no mutual exclusivity to disease. So you'll have an immunosuppressive disease of your gut. Maybe you'll have diabetes and cancer. There's no honor in that. So wake up. To me, it's about, people think that life is this journey where there's an end point. Then they don't understand the fundamentals of life. Life is vibration, energy, and frequency. We're never the same. Never. You never take the same photograph ever in your life. Why is that? Because we're energy, we're frequency, we're vibration all the time. So there is no end point. So when people say, enjoy the journey, that's called conscientious thinking. Because yes, this is all a journey. When you get to an achievement, how long does that achievement last? How long does that oxytocin and that glow last? A week, if you're lucky, a day, an hour, then you're looking for the next thing. That's not life. Life is being present in the moment without judgment, allowing your kids to understand who you are as a human being and feel connected to you. I've never had the luxury of time and quantity with my children. It breaks my heart, but they get quality and presence with their dad. So I may see them 25% of the time, but they get 75% of the man I am. They don't miss that. They don't miss me, right? Because they get me in my entirety. I can't tell you how blessed I feel to live present in the moment without judgment. I don't have fear. I don't have fear of failure. I don't have all the things that were obstacles in my life as a young man. I don't. And I don't care. I don't have expectation. I got on this podcast with you guys. I don't care. I'm just here to listen to you guys and share with you the wisdom that I've gained and the education that is important to being a human. When you have no expectation, you have no behavioral modification. Let's use a simple example. You guys are executives of a company that's growing. You have a big meeting, say on Friday. If the meeting starts going in a direction you don't want it to go, it changes who you are. And behind the scenes in your eyes, you're actually activating what's called the itty bitty shitty committee. And you're starting to do all this negative self-talk and all this shit starts happening, and it changes your behavior. When you have no expectation, it doesn't mean everything goes your way. It means that you're never disappointed because you just show up. That's how I live, and I love it, and it's important to me, and I want the world to have access to this. I live like a monk as a capitalist CEO of an enterprise in America. That's good living.
I was going to say, Jim Buddha Poole. I mean, you're talking about the same principles of many different kind of spiritual, religious, ancient wisdom, except a path to get there that isn't, go live in an ashram for 6 months and try to decipher all these texts and all this shit.
And it won't happen. I've got a great story to share as we land the plane. Brother Craig Marshall, the Yogananda monk, spent 35 years in an ashram. He trained the Beatles on meditation, was Steve Jobs' confidant and best friend, and was holding his hand when he passed away. Same for George Harrison. 5 years ago, I was introduced to Brother Craig. Brother Craig uses NuCalm every day. Dr. Michael Gallitzer wrote a book about NuCalm in 2016. He's a great doctor in Santa Monica. I called Tony Robbins, says, Tony, Michael wrote a book. I want you to write the foreword. Okay, great. I called Brother Craig Marshall. Michael Gallitzer wrote a book. I want you to write the preface. How many books out there have the intro and the preface from a nuclear reactor of energy to a monk? None that I'm aware of, because stress affects all of us. So Brother Craig was like, hey, listen, I want to be honest with you. I'm a monk and I have higher consciousness and probably 100,000 hours of my life, but I still am a man. I still have an ego. And I never would have thought of using an external technology to facilitate my meditation practice. He said, but this is brilliant. As a meditator, you still have to go through checklists and boredom and all this isolation stuff. NuCalm literally facilitates our path into that creative theta zone. That's incredible. So when I tell you I think like a monk, some of my best friends are monks. And it's like, okay, this is amazing. I can't talk business with them because they don't understand any of what I need to do. But I can talk life.
And when I hear about all this stuff about, right, like reaching that end state, that ultimate presence that you want to live under. And, Scott, you touched on this, like this whole whirlwind of short-term thinking. I mean, I just think my biggest takeaway of this whole conversation is you're talking about this 19-year journey. That is time horizon. That is long-term thinking. That is creating something that is actually going to have a lasting impact and is satisfying one of the human core pain points, right? Like we're not talking about a new, shampoo or a better eye cream, right? Like this is eat, sleep, breathe, love, core human things that you need to solve. And those things I think take a long time to solve for and get right. And I really hope that anyone listening to this, and I know I have changed on this, is just staying patient, understanding that if you're going to create something amazing, you need to be in the pocket for a long time. It's not a 4-year thing. It's not a quarterly thing.
No, I mean, we're pioneering. I can tell you 11 years ago, I was lecturing all over the world. No one cared. No one understood what we were talking about. Recovery, sleep, restoration, cellular restoration, stress management was not in the zeitgeist at all. So it's thrilling to me to see this awareness, and especially accelerating from COVID. But even prior to COVID, gentlemen, we were living in what's called the second great age of anxiety. That's not a badge of honor. The first great age of anxiety was post-World War I. So when the planet is out of balance, our central nervous system doesn't feel grounded. It creates anticipatory anxiety and confusion. Then you add COVID, it's a fucking mess. So yeah, the timing is perfect for us to come with a solution that says, hey, no judgment, no foul, no nothing. Just take care of yourself, balance your autonomic nervous system so you can be liberated to be you. Because you can't change the external world. You can change how you interpret stress. That's good living.
So in lieu of no lightning round questions, I have one question, because you just talked about this new wave of stress, right? What is your biggest prediction around how consumer trends are going to change, right? Like, is this the beginning of a new wave of consumers that are now really actively only purchasing things that are going to improve their life quality, products that they stand behind, across the way they're made and et cetera, et cetera? Do you think that's going to be massively accelerated over the next 10 years?
First of all, I love the social psychology aspect of big Herculean movements in life. I think if we haven't learned from this reset, the planet has reset, the humanity is reset. If we go and regress back to our gerbil wheel, we learn nothing. And I really hope that's not the case. I think all of us have had an opportunity for self-reflection and introspection to understand what was it that we were constantly putting our head on the pillow at night and not being satisfied with our to-do list. What part of that to-do list cured cancer or solved, human problems? None. So I hope that we've woken up. I think there's going to be a aggressive online purchasing presence that's not going to end. And it's sad to me to see the post office saying, hey, we're going to delay and prolong shipments. The post office, FedEx, and UPS are going to be busy for the next decade because people have gotten really comfortable not touching and feeling stuff. Even if they haven't made money in COVID, there's this pent-up demand tension. I think the economy is ready for a boon faster than we think it is, even though fundamentally there's a lot of structure to the economy that should scare a lot of people, certainly around the unemployment. I don't know if this awakening is going to be the accelerant to have people really become more self-aware, but I can tell you this, and it might just be the law of attraction. More people understand the concept of stress management and sleep, even if they don't understand consciousness. And taking that path is like a Trojan horse to consciousness. If we can manage your stress and improve your sleep quality, the oxygenation of key areas of the brain will allow you to be present in the moment without judgment, without ever thinking you're meditating, learning how to meditate, or even putting yourself in that field. So I'm really pleased with the outcome of where we're headed. And it's been fascinating. I mean, the last 15 months have been absolutely, what's really cool, gentlemen, I don't know if you got children. You can learn a lot from children because they're so malleable and they adjust. I can look at my girls, 19, 17, and 14, and my girls are freshmen at Penn State living at home. That's not the freshman year that I would like her to have, but they adapt because they don't have the network of 40 years of experience to create this narrative and all these obstructions to life. It's amazing to see how flexible they are. they're fine. It's the parents that are fucked up thinking about, wow, this shouldn't be the life you're living. You should be at college gaining 15 pounds instead. Right? It's crazy, isn't it? So we're in a state of such uncertainty that it forces us to think and create more self-awareness. My challenge to you guys is simple. Surround yourself with people that will help you be a better you. Spend as little time as possible with people who will suck the life out of you, because you can't change any human being. You're lucky if you can change yourself. But I've never hung out with a depressive and left feeling good about myself. So I am really, really particular the people I choose to surround my life with, because time is my most precious currency. And I've got a business and a family, and I need to have that balance. And the people around me, the people that have attracted themselves to me, the Tony Robbins of the world, the Michael Gallagher's, the Brother Craig Marshall, that's who I choose to be around to accelerate the mission of helping humanity.
Well, that's freaking amazing. But I also think, take it from a guy who's spent a lot of time with people that I would say are detractors. I actually call them energy vampires. I think it's really hard to do that without expectation. Like for me, it's like I'm kind of starting to live more and more where you're talking about. Like my favorite book is the Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. I don't know if you should read it. It's awesome, but it basically is like a ex-CEO of a public company's guide to just like letting life come and not trying to control everything. And it's been completely transformational, but in a period of time where I was like, I got to get ahead. I got to win. I got to make the most of myself. This is my one shot. Like, I want to be an entrepreneur to prove myself. Like all the fucking bullshit stories that drive so many of us. I was spending time with a lot of people that were, frankly, like people that I thought were going to get me somewhere. Right. Instead of people that I just were incredibly accretive to my energy. And so I do think like, that is advice that is a lot easier to follow when you're living from a place of presence, lack of expectation for yourself, because that, I don't know, I've just fallen into the trap, even when I'm cognizant of people's energy and how they make me feel.
We all have. We've all fallen into that trap, and we still will. If we listen to our gut, our intuition knows, and it's rarely wrong, but our ego tends to overlook our gut and say, no, I really want to give this person a chance. And then a year later, you regret the last 365 days. You let that succubus suck the life out of you. So you're right. NuCalm is the journey and a facilitator to help you, Scott, on your mission. And it requires really limited effort. You just go in bed, do it every day. Guess what? It's the Trojan horse to consciousness. I am in no position as a man to talk and use the virtues of being a monk. I've simply benefited from a technology for 11 and a half years that has changed my brain chemistry and physiology and allowed me access to areas of my brain that I didn't have access to.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Jim, I mean, this might be my favorite episode. This was freaking awesome. Such an important conversation and topic and work that you're doing. We are so grateful for you. And look, you guys are doing a lot of cool stuff. And so people that want to follow along the journey, maybe try NuCalm, where do we send them?
www.nucalm.com, NuCalm.com. Listen, I like coffee. I like Starbucks. I drink a venti flat white. Cost me $5.15 in Delaware. It's a $165 monthly habit. We've lowered the price to $30 or $40 a month. So give me a break. Figure this out. Make this important to you. And all you have to do is, I tell people, I say, the technology works. I don't need a sample size of one. We have millions of people. We've got the most proven science in the world. It's how you interpret stress and what is it important to you. And you know what? It needs to be. So give it a go. You're welcome.
Boom. All right. Well, we got to end on that. We'll see everybody on the next episode. Thanks for listening.
Peace.